Last week on Behind the Gate, Tony Cairoli dominated the Monster Energy MXGP at Lombardia on home mud to stretch his championship lead to 40 points over Tim Geiser, with the Slovenian struggling to find his form in Mantova. While there was a coming of age for Paul Jonas with his first podium finish since his off-season promotion from MX2. Speaking of MX2, Jorge Prado also swept all before him and has still won every race he's entered in 2019, closing the gap to TKO's red plate to a mere 7 points. David Puches managed third overall, a maiden podium in his fourth season. But now the MXGP paddock has decamped to the Iberian Peninsula, taking us to Águeda in central Portugal for the third year in a row. This a track that Tony Cairoli has fond memories of, with 5 GP wins here over the years, although it was our absent defending MXGP champion Jeffrey Hurlings that came out on top in 2018. Look out for our Minas Jaciconas though, fourth in the standings and at a track that yielded his first ever podium 2 years ago and which remains a popular one with the riders. The field also welcoming back Roman Febvre on his return to action after breaking his ankle at the opening round in Argentina. In MX2, Jed Beaton showed great speed a week ago until a big crash in race 2 halted his progress. The Australian on the podium here last year and ready to challenge once again. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. This is the MXGP of Portugal.
Our GoPro track preview this week comes from Águeda, and we're going to focus on the run down past pit lane, the final 2 corners, and that run up towards the finish line. As you can see, this weekend they've ripped the circuit quite deep. They will add water to that as well, and what that does then makes the ground a lot more sticky. And when you get to the end of this straight here on pit lane, what happens is you get a series of braking bumps over on the left side because there is a short, sharp little single to the inside here. To combat that, the riders then maybe carry a lot more speed around the outside, but that also gets quite rutty and quite chewed up. And what you then get is, certainly on the final lap of the race, as we had last year in MX2 between Ben Watson and Thomas Kjær-Olsen, one goes defensive, the other goes to the outside, jumping up into the final corner, and you get a real run towards the finish line. Last year it was about 2 tenths, maybe even less, between the Husqvarna and the Yamaha rider. Are we going to see something very, very similar this weekend? Don't forget, in MXGP we have Tony Cairoli and Tim Geiss, that battle. For Mondesal, Gauthier Paulin mightn't get involved in the mix, but it will certainly throw up one or two surprises if the racing is close all the way to the finish line.
The second year as a team manager is always easier than the first one, so last year was quite tough year because we had to start from zero basically, and I had to learn a lot of things. I did 25 years of riding and racing, so it's like now I'm a team manager, but when I see the riders arriving, I know exactly what they will say. I know the problem before they say it because I had all this problem before. This is what is helping me a lot.
It's a bit different because last year we were a small team, now it's a bigger team. I have a teammate, Mitch, that was good for me to have a faster guy for me to train. We are really close now, and yeah, we enjoy the training. We are laughing sometimes and say some joke, so yeah, we are good friends.
For my first year in the MX2 Championship, it's been going really well for me. I've just been really enjoying my time here and having a lot of fun and learning the new culture and learning everything that comes to racing the MXGP scenes. A lot of the tracks are new to me. I've ridden a few of the tracks like Mantova and Saint Jean d'Angely. I've always watched the MXGP TV and seen all the tracks, but to finally be able to ride them and see what they're like in person is really cool.
Yeah, for the moment it's been a difficult beginning of the season. The point is to be most of the time in top 20 and getting closer to the top 15. Having a dad world champion now, for me I don't take it for like a pressure. He gives me some good advice, make me happy, but only for the experience and the advice.
For my podium in Argentina, we were quietly confident, but at the same time we really didn't know where I was going to be. We weren't overly surprised, but we were still super excited with it. My ambitions for this year were to be top 5 in the championship. It's been tough, but we're looking forward to keeping on top of things.
No ambitions anymore for me on the bike. You know, I just want to focus on this job now and be world champion again. But if I win the WMX one day now, it wouldn't be as good as winning as a team manager.
MX2 race 1, Thomas Kjær-Olsen down the inside, but it was Jorge Prado who grabbed his 7th foxhole shot of the season as Darian Sinai fell at turn 2. He was run over by Adam Sterry. Carnage ensued as a result of that watered first and second turn. Prado led the way from Michele Chervelin, Henry Jacobi, but the German on the Kawasaki sighed his way down the inside as early as lap 2 and into second place. Next on the list was the 19 championship leader, Thomas Kjær-Olsen. He made this move on Chervelin to get himself into third. Behind him, Ika Larinaga fell and was out of 9th place. Chervelin followed suit a lap later from 4th. He picked himself up. He was doubtful for race 2. Matthijs Borromée and Jago Geerts battled over 6th position. Eventually, though, the Yamaha rider went around the outside and clicked off the Frenchman. as he charged his way towards the top 5. Mitch Evans on the Honda, number 43, found his way past the 172 as well as he went after Jago Geerts. Jacoby was in feisty mood just like he was in the qualifying race, and it was a good battle between him and Olsen in the latter stages of the race. Olsen using every inch of the racetrack. He eventually forced his way past the German and into second with 2 laps to go. Jacoby bounced back, but so too did Olsen. This was a decisive move for the Dane. Jacoby then fell on the final lap. He would come home in 7th position. Evans was 4th on the Honda 114 motorsport machine. Jago Geerts eventually came home 3rd for Monster Energy Khmer Yamaha. Olsen 2nd, but it was Prado who took his 9th race win of the season on the Red Bull KTM as he looked to close the gap on Olsen. Jorge Prado is known as Mr. Holeshot, but it was Rowan van der Moosdijk who grabbed the Fox Holeshot in race 2, his first and Kawasaki's first of 2019. He ran wide though. Behind him, Jago Geerts and Thomas Olsen. Lucky not to go down, but it was Borromée who did crash out in turn 1. By turn 5, Evans was at the inside and caught Prado by surprise. He took over the lead. Great start for the number 32 of Brent van Donnik. He was just inside the top 10, but it was another poor start for Olsen. Caught up in that first turn carnage. He sided his way through. He was quickly inside the top 10. Evans, though, was enjoying his time at the front for Honda 114 Motorsports. But he was being caught all the time by the Red Bull KTM, number 61 of Jorge Prado, who eventually made his move on lap 5 to take over the lead. Evans, though, tried to stay in the rear wheel tracks. A slight bobble though cost him a little bit of momentum, and that was all that Prado needed. But the 43 from Australia continued to push on. The 2 Yamahas of Chervelin and Maxime Renault did their best to keep Thomas Olsen at bay, but eventually the number 19 went through to 5th, leaving the 2 Yamahas to fight it out. They would eventually come home in 7th and 9th, Chervelin and Renault respectively. Jago Geerts was one of several retirees. Matthijs Borromée and Bas Varsen also on the sidelines in race 2. Dylan Walsh had an off-track excursion on his Revo Husqvarna, having come together with Ben Watson. Watson stayed upright though. Those 2 were fighting over 16th after Watson had poor starts in both races. The battle-scarred Yamaha eventually came home in 14th. Jacoby, though, with 4 laps to go, moved up the inside of Evans and into 2nd place. The Australian was now in 3rd. Rowan van der Moosdijk, in a rare appearance in MX2, was having a great ride, but Olsen found his way by to take 4th. Van der Moosdijk came home in 5th ahead of Brent van Donnik on the number 32 Honda Red Motor Asamoto machine. Olsen just ran out of time in the latter stages, couldn't do anything about Evans. And Jacoby hung on for a fantastic 2nd place, but once again it was Prado. 10 wins out of 10 now for the young Spaniard. His 5th Grand Prix win of the season and career win number 20 here in Portugal. Prado, your winner, Olsen 2nd, Evans back on the podium for the first time since Argentina round 1. That's how it rounded out here in Portugal. And guess what? Prado is the new championship leader. And to the victor go the spoils. Prado now on 250 points, 3 clear of Olsen. Jacoby losing ground. Every picture tells a story.
Since Arco, I've had this problem in my foot, and it's definitely holding me back. I'm not 100% at all. I've only had, I think, 2 trainings on the bike before I could ride in Monteville, so it's actually infected the foot, inflamed, and last week I found out it's infected. So one thing is it needs rest, and that rest is tough now because we don't have that many weeks available to rest. Yeah, I left home when I was 15 from South Africa, and leaving the family and friends, and it was tough. It's such a big thing to leave home when you're so young, and you learn so much. It makes you such an independent person, and even now looking back, I wouldn't have done anything differently. The injury that I've had now, you take a step back and you realize how grateful you are, because sometimes when you're in it and you're racing every weekend, you don't actually see that what you're doing, and we're really blessed with the motocross life that us riders are in.
It felt amazing when I heard about HRC, of course, because I dreamed always to be in a factory team, and then finally the moment was there. It has to be actually my rookie season, because last year I didn't ride any races, only the last 2. On the end of the year, I don't want to see it as a rookie season. I want to see good results, and not results that I'm thinking about next year I need to improve. You know, I want to do it directly the right way. If I think about the mud races, I always did good in the mud races. So yeah, for me it's definitely better when it's raining. But I want to be good on any track, any condition. I want to be in the top 10 and then get the good overall. So and I hope to be close to the top 10 on the end of the season.
We are positive, definitely. The last weekend in Mantua, I make many mistakes, many crashes. Also, I lost quite a lot of points there, but I'm really positive. You really don't have time to think a lot because it happens, everything so quick. Definitely after the race, when you watch these replays and stuff like that, definitely you say to yourself you don't want to crash again like that. Yes, in Trentino was really special, I would say. I'm racing in front of so many Slovenian fans, and also we had a great race, great battle with Tony in both motos. After nearly 2 years to win a GP again was great. HRC team, it's like a second family. I hope and I think that we can continue that relationship further in the future. Plenty of racing ahead of us, so we are focusing ahead, and I will do my best.
Antonio Cairoli got the jump on his rivals, and he crossed the foxhole shot line for the 8th time this season, closely followed by Tim Geiser, Arno Tonis, Clement de Sal, and up the inside here with the GoPro, Jeremy Seward, who got himself into 4th place. Gauthier Paulin, number 21, tried to sneak up the inside of Lupino, but at the bottom of the hill, the Frenchman lost the front end and went crashing out spectacularly. He would pick himself up, rejoin the race, but Monster Energy Wilvo Yamaha rider would only get back as far as 15th as Siwa was into 3rd, but he was quickly passed by Arno Tonis. Cairoli led, Geiser was 2nd, and the Honda rider wasn't going anywhere as the 2 Yamaha riders continued to battle out under the watchful eye of the Wilvo boss, Louis Vosters. The 2 Yamaha riders almost came together, and Siwa testing the boundaries of adhesion as he grappled with his Yamaha as he tried to stay ahead of Tonis. Lieber and de Sal, the 2 Kawasaki's, argued over 5th and 6th. As Paul Jonas eventually made his move And the 461 back from injury, Roman Fevre. His teammate, number 27, AJ, eventually fought through to 11th by the time the checkered flag fell. But all eyes were on the battle between Cairoli and Geiser. Cairoli was never too far ahead. Geiser always pushing relentlessly, as once again the 4 and the 91 continued to jostle for that third place. A mistake in the end cost Tony Cairoli the lead. Geiser closed him down, made sure the Italian couldn't retaliate. But there's a reason why Cairoli is a 9-time world champion. He kept showing the Slovenian a wheel or two, and it was a dogged pursuit. But it all came to nothing despite several attempts from the 222. But Geiser just managed to hang on. He took his 4th race win of the year. Cairoli was 2nd, Tonus was 3rd, ahead of Siwa and Lieber. As the riders crossed the Fox Holeshot line, it was number 4, Arno Tonus, who got there before everybody else for his and Yamaha's first Fox Holeshot of the season, but it didn't last long. He ran wide, De Sal snuck up the inside and into the lead, closely followed by Tony Cairoli. Geiser was in 4th, but he lost a couple of positions early on to Siwa and Paulin. Fevre gave a watching brief. De Sal tried to make a break for it on his Monster Energy Kawasaki as Geiser was lucky to stay up on the opening lap. Jeremy Siwa all over the back of Geiser as the Honda rider came through into 4th place. Cairoli knew he had his hands full as well. After his mistake in race 1, he wanted to do all he could to pull back those points he lost to Geiser in that first race. De Sal, though, enjoyed his time at the front on the number 25 Kawasaki, but Cairoli was closing in fast. 4 Yamahas in the battle, all led out by the number 4 of Tonus. Cairoli eventually got himself onto the rear wheel of De Sal just before the halfway mark, as Geiser was closing in on the Italian in 3rd. That was a move that saw Cairoli take the lead. De Sal lost drive, and just as soon as Cairoli had gone through, Geiser had moved into 2nd as well, pushing the Belgian back to 3rd. Cairoli then made another mistake that allowed Geiser, De Sal and Tonus through. Having to fight back, Cairoli was in 4th. Tonus moved past, and so too did Cairoli as they took over the 2nd and 3rd positions, and with 4 laps to go, the 222 moved into 2nd, but by then Geiser was just too far ahead. Roman Fevre had a great ride in 6th, but Jeremy Siwa crashed out of 5th in the latter stages, came home in 10th. But it was Tim Geiser who picked up his 5th race win of the year, an emphatic double moto win here in Portugal. Cairoli was 2nd, Tonus 3rd, De Sal and Paulin rounded out the top 5, but Geiser stands on top of the podium for the 2nd time this year. Cairoli still leads the championship, but that lead has been cut to 34 points now after the dominant display from the Honda rider, Tim Geiser. It's Geiser's 17th career victory now. Arno Tonus back on the podium for the first time in 2 years on his Yamaha. What a fantastic day we had here in Portugal, round 6 of the FIM Motocross World Championship.
Well, this track in Agada sure knows how to put on a show. Tony Cairoli led both MXGP races here in Portugal. But he couldn't hold off a resurgent Tim Geiser as the HRC rider took advantage of mistakes in both motos to take his second GP win of the season. While Arno Tonus was delighted to find himself on the podium for the first time in over 2 years. In MX2, Jorge Prado kept up his record of winning every race he's entered in 2019, leaving TKO trailing in his roost. The Spaniard now in possession of the red plate. Meanwhile, Mitch Evans was absolutely stoked to pick up a second podium of his rookie season at the MXGP of Portugal. We'll now quickly pack up and head north for next week's MXGP of France at Saint-Jean-d'Angely. Ciao!